Focus on focus.
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 Focus
on focus.
Focus on focus. It's a map. It's a recipe. It's, you know, it's 3 cups, 3/4 cups of sugar. It's 1 cup of cornstarch.
The 6, if I'm correct in saying, is the 6
Best practices?
Here's a better way to be better at what you do.
I think focus on focus is important because it acknowledges some of the very simple, basic things that we can do as educators to make our students feel comfortable, welcome, and successful.
I'm glad to see the focus on focus, emphasis on learning names. Ever since I became a teacher, that has always been a fundamental thing that you do immediately. I kind of pride myself that I do that quickly.
It feels great when an instructor knows you by name.
Yeah, it really surprised me that they show interest and they know my name.
I really enjoy the relationships that I've made with my professors. They'll pass me in the hall and say hello, and they will call me by name.
I was greeted with a lot of positivity once I decided to come here. I ended up meeting the instructor that I talked to face, and she remembered who I was, which was really empowering.
I had an experience this semester where one of my students looked like she wasn't engaged and didn't seem like she wanted to be there as much as some of the other students. And I realized I had been calling her by the wrong name. And finally, after 4 weeks, I just looked at her and I was like, "What is your name again?" And she told me the correct name. And I was like, "I am so sorry. I've been saying the wrong one for 3 weeks." And even though I had those, nameplates out the first couple weeks, they got switched up in my mind. As soon as I corrected myself, and that day I made a point to call on her 3 or 4 times by her correct name, it was like a totally different person the next day she came into class. She was back in, I think, just validating that I knew who she was.
Learning their name is huge for me, knowing students' names, and I see that reward later when they come back to see the advisor. I'm like, "Oh, how are you, Sam?" or "How are you, David?" They're like, "You remember my name?" Yes.
I think what's weird about remembering student names is that outside of school, it's really hard for me to remember student names. But inside of school, it's very easy. One of the early focus on focus things that I started implementing, even before focus on focus was something that the school was initiating, was I wasn't finding out that students had any kind of learning issue or class comfort levels until much later in the course. So by having an early assessment, which was really just a very simple quiz through Blackboard, wasn't meant to be anything stressful. Was just, for example, setting up a true or false whether or not a student had read the syllabus, so that automatically the first day I knew if there were flags coming in. And then on top of that, I knew if they had any Blackboard issues. I knew if they were getting their email. I knew if they were reading instructions. So you could really filter out some issues just with that one simple basic quiz.
It's very, very helpful when instructors post grades right away. I hate it and I love it because if I don't do too good, I don't want to see it, but I still need to see it. So at least it prepares me to know if I need to talk to my instructors right away, or if I can relax for a little bit, or if I should change some of my study habits. So I think it's crucial for instructors to try to post grades as soon as possible.
I'm looking at the best practices here.
So. Okay, I should look at mine.
So learn names is one, and we talked.
Yeah.
You've got the common syllabus. We talked about that.
Can I comment on one?
Yeah.
Look at brief conversation with students. I have a one-on-one with students, 15 minutes for every student. So I block out a day and we meet with them one-on-one. I ask them how things are going. And then we talk about, okay, what are your career goals? What are your expectations? How are you doing with your assignments to this point? And then where do you want to go from here?
One thing I found to be very valuable for students that kind of are in a non-traditional situation is, again, really just starting with a conversation. A simple, hello, welcome to Madison College, I'm so glad you're here, can really go a long way.
I think that connecting with every student and understanding what their story is, because every student has a story. It's just some of us, it's not so easy to see, is the only way that I can really be of best service to them.
As a student, I appreciate when the instructors connect with us. Working in industry for so many years, I've had bosses that don't want to connect. You don't feel part of the team, part of the culture. When I have instructors that'll connect with me, sharing work experience, sharing life experiences, I do feel that you get a better educational experience out of it because of the personal connection.
A lot of times just having a conversation with the instructor is the difference between a student dropping a class because they feel that they're failing or that they feel that it's hopeless, and them staying in that class and being successful.
I fell on my face a bunch of times and I quit. You know, I would leave and nobody would bat an eye. My professors wouldn't reach out. I just didn't have a support. I didn't have any of it and I left. I think what made me come back was was the exposure that I had to certain professors. The first time a professor kind of engaged me, I was confused. Like, who are you? Like, why are you saying, like, why are you asking me for my opinion? Nobody asked me for my opinion. Nobody cared about my opinion. It wasn't until that person just kind of like, no, like, how are you doing? Like, I want to know, how are you doing? And you open up and you're just like, I think I'm doing okay. Well, what's happening? What do you think? Why do you think you're doing okay? Well, I have these questions. Well, I can answer these questions. And man, when you get that ball rolling initially, when that person asks you, and you let them know, they will answer your questions.
One metaphor I use with my students is that, conversation's like a game of tennis. And if conversation is the ball, I hit the ball to you, and you've got a choice. You can grab that ball, stick it in your pocket, and walk off the court, and game over, right? But if you hit it back to me, like you answer my question and return it with another question, that tells me you're interested.
So those kind of things, for me, make a difference because it shows me that they care, they remember, and that not only they left a footprint in my experience, but I left a footprint with their experience as them being my instructors.
I think that engaging and confronting students and being honest with them is very helpful because it allows them to kind of grow their relationships not only with themselves and other people, but with instructors, other classmates, being more comfortable around people so they can ask those questions that they may not have originally felt comfortable asking. So I think that by using these focus on focus practices, we're really allowing these students to grow themselves, to be more comfortable in themselves and be able to stick up for who they are and who they want to be and where they want to go with their life.
There was a time exactly where I was able to do that, where there was a student that really didn't talk too much. Anytime that I kind of called on the student or tried to involve them in a conversation, they just kind of, it was always yes, 1 or 2 word answers. And I was like, at some point I was like, maybe she doesn't like me. Maybe it's just me. And it wasn't the case. In that situation specifically with that student, it was just the constant digging, that chop. You have that big redwood and you're just every day bringing up small talk, little comments and things like that, and eventually they end up coming out of their shell. But there are those students that are there, those outliers that sometimes, where they really aren't comfortable with talking in a big classroom setting. But again, it's every day at a time. You take it just like anything else in life. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and you just kind of work with them every day, day in, day out. And eventually you find something, you get that laugh. You say something and they laugh and you're like, yes, you see the light coming through.
Your eyes are turning his face. How to help people understand what focus on focus is about and how it can help the student, I guess is what I'm hearing being asked. And I think that there's a lot of stuff about change that comes on. And no matter where we are in life, change isn't something we want to do. We always want someone else to do it, right? Change is good for you, not necessarily for me. And I find that the more champions you can get on board, showing them just sometimes little pieces that are working. Maybe it's, let me show you how great this little tool is in Blackboard, that if you have them submit something, it's this, or how they can do a wiki, and the students can collaborate together before they come to class, and then you've got this richer discussion.
I think Blackboard is an incredibly important tool and has helped me to be a stronger teacher, because when I use it, I'm able to connect with the students and do things in different ways. So we can use discussion boards, we can use wikis, we can use journals or assignments. So I can really test students on what they're learning and understand where they're at in their competency gains by using these different tools.
I was told that I need to know how to operate this system called Blackboard. I was like, this is some sorcery.
I know for some people it may seem scary if they're not used to technology, or even like the tool is just too much if they can do it in the classroom on pen and paper. At the same time, I feel like Blackboard, when used appropriately, will allow us to better connect with our students.
I was very nervous to do Blackboard when I first came back. I'm not the most computer savvy person.
Blackboard was the biggest challenge for me coming back to school.
I was pleasantly surprised that I found Blackboard very easy to use, very easy to navigate.
The Blackboard site is nice as a student because I can go and access at any time instructions from my instructors on upcoming assignments, course syllabus, content. Instead of having a folder full of papers, it's usually right at your fingertips from anywhere.
I have an instructor who refuses to use Blackboard, and it's more challenging because there are no notes posted, there's no way to get feedback other than waiting until the next week when we show up for class.
And so it's really important, in my estimation, for them to get comfortable with how to use Blackboard. So while I use initial, early, small assignments during the first week, I also have created little videos that show the students how to submit an assignment for my class, how to take a test, how to put a discussion board item up, and how to do a journal entry.
I know what I'm going to definitely implement my first day of every class that I teach now is the syllabus, the expectations for the class, rules, regulations, things like that. But then I'm going to go through and do a basic Blackboard. Because everyone nods because everyone else is nodding. You know how conformity works. Oh yeah, I know how to do it. But then when students are putting their 5-page papers in the comments to the teacher section, I know that there's some things that we can work on. So the first day of every single one of my classes, I sit down, we talk about the syllabus, I show them where it's at, but then I walk them through specifically Blackboard. I do a mock assignment that I turn in. If they have any questions, they can do it. They can ask those questions there, but I think it's very important that you educate them on Blackboard because the classes we have here at the college are difficult enough, let alone not knowing how to turn in an assignment that you just spent 3 hours working on. So it's important.
In terms of the ideas that I've seen from the Focus on Focus list, the welcome letter is the one I'm going to adopt first. I think it's a great idea. I've thought even about using that welcome letter now, right before Thanksgiving, and let the students know, hey, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that we're doing this together. I'm thankful that you're in my class.
It's always a welcome letter. It's always, we're so glad to have you. I always try and make sure that they understand that I'm here for them. They're not here for me. I'm here for them. And I think that our students get that. I think my students get that.
We monitor our wait list. So when we get a new registrant, we send an email welcoming them to the program and telling them what to expect, that there will be orientation coming up in the summer months. We invite them in if they want to come visit and see the program before orientation. And then when orientation rolls around, we find text messaging to work really well. That a lot of the students don't read emails, but if you send them a text, you can get a quicker response.
But she was so kooky.
In a good way?
In a great way. I mean, but I remember receiving that welcome letter from her and what the class was going to entail and things like that, and the language that she used and the pictures that she used on Blackboard. I'm like, who is this person?
So give me some examples. What were they like?
I mean, she had a photo of her in her band suit with in her entire band behind her, and it was really fun, engaging the entire time. It was different. It was more lively, and I never thought that I could get that off of an online course in the summer. But when I first read it, I was like, this is gonna be interesting.
Life outside of this program, since we're here about 40 hours a week, exists in about 6 hours outside of it. That includes everything, you know, job, family, social life. So having a clear syllabus that has everything laid out is really, really important, because if you forget something, you can always go back and reference it. Or the instructor later, you know, they can always be like, oh, it's in your syllabus, you know, you could have been following along the whole time. So I would say for someone like me, it makes life a lot easier just to keep everything in its place.
All of the resources that are available are included in the syllabus. My teaching philosophy is included in the syllabus, the assignments, how the assignments are weighted. But I think the schedule itself, students can look at that syllabus, and on every date they know the topic that's going to be discussed, they know the homework that is going to be asked for, and we are really almost always on track with the syllabus. I'm a slave to my own syllabus. It's the only thing that helps me to stay organized.
I think anytime we can make college have some similarity from classroom to classroom, it's an important thing to do for students, because if there's some similarity in the way we go about our business, that will give them more confidence and enable them to feel more secure here at school. So if everyone is using a syllabus that kind of looks the same from other classes, that's a comfort.
Having a clear plan in a syllabus is really kind of necessary for me. I like to see where the program's going, what's going on next.
Well, the syllabus, yeah, it's really helpful because, like, I need to make, like, my reservation for the testing center, like, a week before, and I need to look up at the syllabus to see when is the next test.
I personally believe there's lifelong learning, and that's where these students are starting. And sometimes you can be that little pearl that helps them along.
Awesome. Man, I feel like we've got some good stuff here.
Okay. That's fine, because I haven't eaten lunch.
Yeah. Let's,
my understanding of Focus on Focus is that it is the basic foundation for success. And the way I love it, because the college has provided me with a template to be successful. And there's nothing more you can ask from an employer, from a coworker, from a supervisor, is a general guide map on how to be successful. And whether it was athletics or whether it was in law enforcement, I always take what is given to me because there are resources. The college provides these resources to help. And for me to ignore those would be kind of foolish, because somebody's saying, here you go, here's a better way to be better at what you do. And for me to accept it is fantastic. So I think the opportunity that it comes here, but also understanding it and applying it, I think is important too. And I love the fact that the college has provided those resources to set me up for failure. And that's really what I love about working here at Madison College.
Okay, very cool.
do you mean set you up for success?
What did I say, failure?
Yeah.
I mean, set me up for, sorry, set me up for success.
Don't put the word success.
Success. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry.